So today we'll start a important aspect of your prelim exam, reading comprehension. Now see, CSAT paper 2 will have two parts. One will be your maths, arithmetic or your reasoning part, and the second will be your reading comprehension. Now when you're looking at CSAT paper, 80 questions are there, and mostly students have this weakness, or they are not properly well versed with the arithmetic or the reasoning part, specifically your arithmetic part. So here what we have to do is we have to recalibrate our strategy. Now what happens is, maths is something which is a skill which is learned over a period of time. You have to practice a lot. You have to practice in reading comprehension also, but at the end of the day it needs lot of skill, right? It needs quickness. It's not just about solving anything. You will solve anyhow, right? Solving sometimes is not the problem. Solving in time, solving it quickly is the point, right? The questions are not that difficult that it's unsolvable. You can solve, but probably for one question you take 10 minutes and you're cutting down your time for the other questions. So the part where the CSAT paper becomes difficult is not that you cannot solve, it is that you cannot solve in the given time, right? Anyhow, that part will be dealt with another teacher. So what should be the strategy when it comes to GS2, sorry, your paper 2 part in your prelim examination? You're not good with maths, right? So general thing is that you start practicing even more. You start going through your mock test papers, previous year questions, which is a good practice. You should be doing. I'm not saying you should leave it. But a second aspect of your strategy here should be that why not focus here? Sometimes we waste too much time on our weaknesses and forget that some part we are already good at it, we can make it even more better. If your accuracy level, if your number of questions which you are attempting in maths is very low and you cannot rely on it, right? Because maths is a skill which you have built it in your school level, right? Probably you can improve it by 5 to 10% more. It's really difficult at this point of time, or when you have the pressure of GS part also, you have to read too many subjects. So why not focus on a low hanging fruit, that is reading comprehension? What students usually do is, in CSAT paper, much of the time is wasted on the maths part, right? And unfortunately, like I told you, it's a skill. Sometimes you don't get that level of accuracy, or you don't get that level of expertise in that area. So here your reading comprehension comes. Now I'm not saying reading comprehension is very easy, right? It also needs a technique, it also needs a skill, but it is very easily, it's like doable, right? If you even have 3 months or 2.5 months at your hand also, it can be easily done, right? There will be few tricks, or there will be few instructions if you follow properly, and if you are practicing enough. Say for example, start with previous year questions only, and when you're doing previous year questions, and we'll cover previous year questions, lot of questions in class itself, and when you're doing previous year questions, you have to remember to refer to only and only the official key. Please don't go for any other key. And in fact, if you are doing reading comprehension also, prefer doing previous year question, because since 2013 till now there are too many questions. So even if you are able to solve only your every previous year question, it will be more than enough. Because what happens with official key is, in which way UPSC expects answer, or in which way they are preparing the options, right? And our lectures in the coming days will be has been designed in this manner only. We'll not go year to year, we'll go question to question. Because when we see reading comprehension, there are certain questions which are repeated. They will ask you about assumption. What is the assumption the author has made in the passage, right? So almost in the last 10 years, 50 to 60 questions have been around assumptions only. So why not understand how to solve assumption questions? Then there will be questions about inference. What is your inference from the passage? Again, inference and assumption are two different things, right? Then in some passages they will ask you what is the most logical and your rational, conclusion from the passage. Again, a different approach will be there. So I repeat this in every class when we do GS, when we do your any GS subject, when you do society, ethics, essay. That preparation has to be taken in a very technical manner. You have to understand the foundation of it. If you randomly keep solving passages, some will be right, some will be wrong. Probably out of 100 questions, if you are solving, you get 50 right. And you or say 60 or 80 right also. You will be happy about it that now I know. But that preparation of your reading comprehension doesn't have a strong foundation, because you have not realized what type of questions are being asked. What do they expect, right? What type of questions are getting repeated? So before you start anything, before you start reading anything, before you start solving question, understand the foundations of it. What is UPSC expecting? What does it expect out of reading comprehension? What are the different types of questions which are being asked, right? Which questions get repeated most often, right? What type of keyword, what is the meaning of that keyword? Now, even if with this technical analysis of the paper, even if you solve 50 to 60 questions also, right? I'm just giving an example. Obviously, you should solve more. But still, if you have a sound basis, if you have a sound foundation of your preparation, even 50, 60 questions will be more than enough. You won't have to dwell too much into the practice, because now you understand the meaning behind it. Right? Say, take for example, even your other part also, maths. If you catch hold of how to do profit and loss question, or probably how to do your permutation and combination, you know the foundational concepts, right? Now, even if you practice less, if your basics are clear, solving any type of question on profit and loss or permutation and combination would be easy, right? Take for example GS also. If your concepts are clear, whatever might be the question, it will be easier for you to solve. So always focus on the foundations. Don't just randomly pick books, don't just randomly pick up mock test paper and just solve it. Because you have to analyze at the end of the point. You don't have all the time in the world that, every day I'll solve 20 RCs. You can solve it, right? And you can mark yourself also. But what is the learning out of it? What is the basis of the paper? What type of, passages they are asking? What is the technique to attempt the reading comprehension? These things matter a lot. And if you are doing your preparation without any analysis, without any direction, just randomly doing things, it will be very detrimental. That is why there are students, unfortunately, they keep on giving prelims again and again, and they're not able to, clear the exam. Why? Because you're not focusing on the foundational concepts. You're just focusing on learning things. Learn, but learn with some foundation. Certain rules. If those rules are strong, you will be able to attempt any type of questions. And that concept or that mindset also works in reading comprehension. It's not just a passage of English. It has certain rules to follow. And if you are following those rules, it becomes very, very easy for you. And second step obviously has to be application of those rules. Because to prove yourself, to understand, or to convince yourself that now I understand these rules, you have to solve repeatedly. And say, for example, you're doing assumption questions, and after 20, 30, or 40 questions, you realize that now your accuracy rate is very high. Now is the time you can move on to the next thing. Now you will be confident enough because I know what is the mechanics behind assumption question or conclusion question or inference question. Now I can move forward, right? So think in this manner. Always focus on the foundational concept. Don't run behind just randomly preparing for anything. May it be your history part, may it be your geography, anything, right? Now, especially this, I have already told you, but still, especially if you're weak in your other part, focus on your reading comprehension. Focus on accuracy, right? uh, if I give my experience, I was also not good with maths, right? My accuracy rate with maths was not good. So I knew that even if I practice the round the year, still there will be a problem. I had problem with doing quick calculations. Now I cannot increase my speed of calculation overnight. It was a skill which you learn in the school, that's it. Either you're good at it or either you're bad at it. So recognizing and accepting your weaknesses is also very important. Being self-aware in the preparation is very important, that this is something, it is my weak point. Now, instead of crying over it or instead of panicking over it, that what will I do? You have to focus on that there will be my strength points also. Why not double them? Why not triple them? So I employed this strategy. I went through reading comprehensions. I did lot of practice, right? Covered all the previous year questions. In fact, I picked up a GMAT book also. Now, GMAT is an exam which is famous for, difficulty level of reading comprehension is very high. Now, with this, what happened is my accuracy rate was very close to 100%. So if I am attempting reading comprehension, I know 97 to 98% I will be correct. Probably I'll leave 2 or 3 questions where I'm not really sure. Now, apart from this, I will do only those questions which I am 100% sure when I'm talking about maths or reasoning. Now, reasoning is much easier. There will be a question with respect to your age related question, which is very easy, or missing number, that is very easy, not very difficult. But I knew permutation and combination is a weak point for me. I will not even read that question. I leave it. Why to waste time? Why to attempt something where I know I'm not good at it? So leave permutation and combination or probability question. Now with this, what happens is, out of 80 questions, you will be able to solve questions. And I'm telling from my experience, very smoothly I was able to get 80-82 marks, right? Which is well above your cutoff marks. But you need to re-strategize. And mind you, I'm not saying you leave CSAT, because only reading comprehension will also not do the work. Some questions you have to attempt, but don't aim that 80 out of 80 I should be attempting. That strategy doesn't work in your CSAT paper. You have to be very, very judicious with number of questions. Now, there are 2 types of things when we are doing your, even any paper, when we are talking about prelims. There are 2 aspects. Number of questions. Second part is accuracy. Now, when we talk about GS, only GS paper, the paper 1 in prelims. Now, here your strategy is flexible. If you feel, and there's no, any rule written in stone, it's your personal strategy. When you see the paper, you will realize probably this is a difficult paper. then you have to focus more on accuracy. Don't go after that, I will attempt 90 question, 100 question. If it is visibly looking that questions are difficult, you're not able to find, easy questions. 15 to 20 questions are very much doable without even thinking. If you don't even find those questions, it means it is difficult not only for you. If your preparation is good, right? If your preparation is bad, obviously every question will look difficult. So if your preparation is good, you have to be very judicious with your strategy for prelims. It's not one size fit all. It's with respect to you and you only. Your level of preparation, your expertise, your practice. Right? But still, if you are prepared, you look at the paper, you realize there are not even 15, 17 or 20 questions which are very easy. It means it is difficult. And if it is difficult for everybody. Right? And you can judge this only if you feel your preparation is good. Now, you will here have to focus for more accuracy. Now, if you feel the paper is on easier side, easier to moderate side, now here you have to cover your bases. More number of questions you will have to attempt. You will have to take certain informed guesses, not guesses in the dark. Gautam sir might have covered a lot of things about how to attempt questions, what to leave and what to attempt, even if you're making an informed guess. There are certain questions which you have to leave. You can't make an informed guess in a history question, which is purely fact-based. It's difficult to make a guess here. So again, the strategy in prelim has to be tailor-made for you, depending upon your level of preparation, right? Now, when you come to CSAT paper, because there is passing marks are there. It will not get added in your score, right? It's just a passing marks. You have to focus on accuracy. You don't have to top in your CSAT paper. Even if you get 66 marks or 66.05, you are through prelims. Doesn't matter at all. Person who will get 80 marks also, that person will also be clearing your, CSAT cutoff. Person getting your 100 marks will also, and person getting just exact 68 will also clear the exam. So we are not aiming for increasing our score here, which we aim in the paper one, because we want to clear our cutoff. Right? Again, don't run after blindly after strategies. See your preparation, see the question paper, and on the spot decide what you are going for. Right? But still, when you are aiming for your GS paper, 70 to 75 is minimum. Right? You should be attempting. Right? But again, there's no rule for it, purely on you. Nobody, don't take it in your mind that ma'am said 70 to 75. Probably your 50 questions were of 100% accuracy. You will clear the cutoff. It is around 100 only. Right? So just be very careful. Don't just accept everything which is coming your way when it comes to prelim. Mains is very different. Means there are set strategies there, set rules are there, which type of question works, which type of question doesn't work. Prelim is a very different ball game altogether. It's different, right? And there is no one set strategy. There have been certain, I gave 3 prelims. There was one paper where I attempted 70, and there was one prelim paper where I attempted 98 questions also. So totally depends upon which year, what type of questions. And I have cleared prelim all the 3 times. Now it depends upon, so you can say I cleared it with 70 questions also, I cleared it with 98 questions also. Depends upon the paper, depends upon your level of preparation, depends upon how confident you are that my accuracy level will be high here. So even if I attempt 50, 55, I will be through prelims, right? So these questions, these rules or these principles should be very strong, and you have to devise it for yourself, right? Yes, are we clear here?
Yes.
Now next, when we are talking about reading comprehension, now reading comprehension, First thing you have to remember is why UPSC has given reading comprehension. Reading comprehension has been given. It is not for testing your English. Absolutely not. Right? Reading comprehension is not about testing English. It is about whether you can let go your ego while reading the comprehension. Can you do a disciplined reading? Whatever passage is in front of you, that becomes your whole world. If the passage is saying that sun rises at your probably 9 p.m., that is your world. You don't have to put in your judgment, your ego, that how can sun rise at 9 p.m. Passage is saying 9 p.m., it means 9 p.m. for you. Most of the time, this is the most common mistake. We'll go into other rules also. Most common mistake while attempting your reading comprehension. Why people say that reading comprehension, I'm not getting accuracy, when it's very small passage, not even 100 words. And still the question is wrong. Facts are in front of your eyes. It's not very difficult to read 4-5 lines. It's absolutely in front of your eyes. There is nothing there. Still you go wrong because you are bringing in your ego, your own judgment. That is the basic, reason why people go wrong. Because we start thinking from our brain. We let our ego in. Your reading comprehension, once you read it, each word of the reading comprehension is a gospel truth for you. It's a scripture for you. It's the ultimate truth for you. You don't have to go beyond it. Even if it looks foolish, even if it's look false, even if it is morally not right. This is not your ethics paper that you will judge how, or this is not your science paper that how that can this happen. Author is saying it is happening, it is happening. So the main reason you will go wrong is because you start adding your preconceived notion to the reading comprehension. You don't have to bring those notions. It's not a test of your vocabulary or your English. It's about disciplined thinking. How disciplined can you be while reading the reading comprehension? What is disciplined thinking? We'll cover it in a while. So your reading comprehension, it's not, UPSC is not testing your English. It is testing whether you can read without ego. And I know everything. If reading comprehension is about climate change, I know everything about climate change. So I'll just skip the passage and read the questions. And how can this be right? This option is visibly looking, wrong. I'll put a wrong. This is you bringing your own thinking, your own notions, your own ego that I know everything about climate change, because there are a lot of passage which comes from climate change. In the last 10-12 years, every year almost 1 or 2 essay is on climate change. Or it comes on, say, artificial intelligence. I know everything about artificial intelligence. And when you read the option, you feel this is feeling wrong. It's not your, intuition or your feeling. You have to go it into the shoes of the author. Right? You do a practice set. Now I am the author. I have written this passage. This small bubble is my world. Whatever 100, 150 words which are given in the passage, I will not go beyond it. Whatever inference, whatever assumptions, and we'll see, because when we'll do questions such as assumptions, in assumptions, things will not be explicitly given in the reading comprehension. Right? So how do we attempt that? We'll see. Right? That will be our first type of question, because most students have difficulty in assumption questions only. But you have to let go of any other thing. If this is your, and why I'm stressing on this is the first and the foremost important rule when you're doing reading comprehension. If you get this in your mind, you're already ahead, people. Already you have, gone 20% in the preparation of reading comprehension, because most of the time the mistake happens here. When you put your own brain, when you put your own ego that, okay, how can this happen? This looks wrong, and you put it wrong. Author can give you the most absurd fact also. But you don't have to do any judgment here. You have to stick to the words which have been given in the reading comprehension, right? So now when we are seeing reading comprehension, is it visible at the back? Yes. And to the online students, is the board visible? Okay. So reading comprehension is not knowledge testing. They're not testing your knowledge. If they have to test your knowledge about climate change, they'll do it in your paper 1 or in the mains in the GS3 paper. They're not testing your knowledge, right? Reading comprehension is also not about vocabulary testing. But there might be certain words which can be difficult for you, right? Certain words which you might not have read it, right? So a simple hack for it is, if you're little bit good with Hindi, just see the Hindi version. That's a simple hack for it. That will become a little easier. If your knowledge about Hindi is good, if you don't have good knowledge of Hindi, obviously then you have to somehow infer what can be the meaning by seeing the line. So that is one hack. But it is not about your vocabulary. Over the years, if you go through your reading comprehensions, you will realize they are not that difficult. Words are not very flowery or not very difficult. Very simple reading comprehension will be there. And sometimes they're even very small. They're not even one paragraph long. Just 3-4 passages. And I feel the passages which are 3-4 lines are the most difficult ones, because very limited information. Longer passages, although takes time to read, but they're still much easier, because there is 2-3 points which they have given. Now when the passage is very small, you have to read between the lines. You have to be very judicious with each and every word. Even is, are, small words, the adjectives being used, the conjunctions being used in between, they matter a lot, right? Okay. Now then, RC is also not about speed reading. They're not checking your speed, how fast you can read reading comprehension. Obviously, you have to be little careful about the fact that you don't take, say 5-10 minutes in just reading the comprehension. But still, it is not about that how fast you can read and how fast you can go. Go slow, right? Try to read each and every word carefully, right? In fact, I would suggest you, when you get the paper, first do reading comprehension. Be with a clear mind. Don't think about anything else while you are reading the comprehension passage. If you're thinking about random things, you will miss the points. Your reading comprehension is like you can say a mine. You have to mine the diamonds out of it, right? Or coal, whatever. You have to be very careful. Each and every word carries a lot of weight, right? So when you are reading your comprehension, certain bare minimum speed obviously has to be there, but don't be too fast in just reading the lines. Because if you're reading the comprehension and then you read the question and then you again go back and read again, you're wasting time. It means that you didn't read in the first time properly. Mark the words. Take your pen and mark the keywords there and then only. Right? I'll show you an example also when we'll start doing the questions. Put it in a brackets where you feel certain information is being given. Right? So, but it's not about speed. Sometimes if you have a habit of reading novels, sometimes you're reading novels or books, and sometimes your mind wavers. You're reading, but you're not actually getting it, and in 2-3 seconds you realize that you were reading, but you didn't take that information, and then you read it again. It happens a lot of time, even if you're reading any normal book. You're reading it, but you're thinking about something else. This should not be there when you're doing reading comprehension. Absolute alertness is very important. You have to be very alert. No chatter in mind apart from the comprehension. Each and every word. Have you seen small kids reading things? Right? They put their finger on each word and they're very slow. If you ask them to read this passage, they will be very slow. They'll put finger on everything. RC is not knowledge. They'll read like this. You should also be doing like this. Put your pen on each and every word, and wherever you find something is important, circle it. Put it in brackets. Give it a number. That probably this is fact number 1. Wherever you find some extreme statement that this particular thing is not possible at all. Now this is extreme statement, and if in option it is saying that it might be present, it means that is wrong, because your reading comprehension already is saying that this is not possible at all. It's extreme, it's very clear, 100% sure that this is not possible. And if your option in the question is saying that it might be possible, so might word, obviously you should know that this is eliminated. So even before reading the whole sentence, just from the keyword, you will be able to eliminate the option. So read every word very carefully. Be with a very clear mind. You will just have one take for reading the comprehension, because if you're reading it again, you're wasting time. You don't have much time here, right? And especially in GS paper, you might have some breathing space. But in CSAT paper, you will not even realize when 2 hours get over, right? It will be very quick. So be very judicious of the time also. That okay, these are the passages and I will be completing it in this time, right? Anyhow, then what reading comprehension is, like I told you, reading comprehension is disciplined thinking, right? There has to be a discipline in your thinking. Now, what does disciplined thinking means? We'll see that, right? Now, when we are saying RC is disciplined thinking, it is the discipline of controlling your mind while reading. Very important. Don't let your mind waver into random things that if will I clear prelim or not, or you start thinking on what will I do when the bell rings, I will watch this movie. Nothing. Clear mind, no chatter. Because if there is a chatter, you will miss very important points. Just be immersed in the reading comprehension. Right? While you are solving maths or while you are writing an answer, this much level of focus might not be required. You require focus there also, but this much level is not required. But here, a lot of focus is required, because the moment you miss a word, and it's not missing a word, it is missing the entire meaning of the essay, comprehension sometimes. So, you have to control your mind while reading. So, first controlling will be that no thinking apart from passage. So what is the best way to do that? Do your RCs first. Now, if you're good at maths, then probably quickly solve the maths questions, because that might not take much time if you're good with maths. Solve them first. say in half an hour, whatever question you feel in half an hour or 40 minutes, that you are dead sure of these questions, solve them quickly, and then come to your reading comprehension. Again, there is no one size fit all strategy for prelims. Depends on you, depends upon your expertise, right? So you have to control your mind while reading, right? Now, disciplined thinking means that you have to discipline against your ego, right? You have to suspend your beliefs and temporarily adopt to the author's world. Author's world is your world now. I've already explained this. Whatever he says is the truth for you, right? If he's talking about climate change, if he's talking about technology, if he's saying world will end in 2026, that is your truth. Don't apply your brain. Whatever he's saying, it is true for you. So author's world becomes your own world. And you might feel that this is so obvious. No. When you read it, you forget about these things. You have to remind yourself again and again. That is what happens when you don't practice enough. Because once you start with passage number 1, first tell your brain, this is the information, only information I will be using. Don't make a judgment. Don't bring in notions. Train your brain. Talk to your brain. Talk to yourself. Right? When you don't talk, mistakes like these happen very easily. Right? Say for example, when in my 11th and 12th I took medical, and very repeatedly teachers told that solve biology first in your entrance exam. Do physics at last. Physics is difficult. Solve biology, chemistry, and then last physics. Now you are a 12th standard student, right? You are naive, you don't practice much. Even when teacher told 100 times solve biology first. But I didn't train my brain enough. The moment I get the paper, the first section is physics, I start solving physics. 10 questions into physics, I realize, oh, I have to start with biology. Simple fact, right? The teacher had already told 100 times, start with biology, because I didn't tell my brain. I didn't practice enough in that manner. I practiced MCQs, but I didn't practice similar to how I will be doing it in the examination hall. Because you are anxious also, your future depends on it, your entire year's hard work depends upon it. So at that time, brain functions in a very different manner. Right? Our nervous system is overloaded at that time. So we forget even basic things. But you have to ensure that even if you are in a condition, exam condition, you're nervous, you're anxious, it is a part of your thinking now. It's a habit. You have to inculcate that habit. Right? That even if the conditions are very stressful, I know what to do. And how will that come? With practice. If you solve 50, 60 RCs, right? Every RC say has 2 questions, 120 questions. This is just bare minimum. And with every passage, you're always, before reading, you're saying, this is your truth. This is your author's world. I'm entering author's world. Now for 120 questions, you have repeatedly given instruction to your brain. It's absolutely not possible that in your examination, you will miss this. Moment you will sit down, you know. Similarly, when we talk about GS paper, students are always advised that first quickly go through the paper, start with the questions which feel familiar. Just quickly finish them off. If you take 8 to 9 minutes in solving a GS question of 10 marks, if you're familiar with it, probably you solved it in mock or probably you have read it before, it's high possibility you can write it in 6.5 minutes. Why not finish it first? And save time. rather than wasting 10 minutes or 12 minutes for a question which you don't know. But this strategy disappears if you have not practiced enough. If you're not given mocks, you will forget it there. And even if somebody outside the center tells you that you have to do this, still you will forget the moment you get paper in your hand, because conditions are very different. And how to train your brain to think in that manner even when you're sitting in examination hall, simple way is that you practice more. It becomes a habit, it becomes a reflex action that you don't even have to think. You already know about it. Your brain is trained to do in that manner. So this point might feel that this is very obvious, is very simple, but I know in exam you will forget about it, right? So in RC you are not debating the author, you're not putting up a fight with him, you're not doing an argument with him, right? You are interpreting the author. That is very important. You're trying to interpret it. Say for example, take scriptures of any religion. Somebody centuries ago wrote that scripture, right? So now what do different religion do? Do they fight on it? They interpret it. They see the context, why this particular religious rule is there. They try to interpret it, that okay, this was the wisdom behind it. Or probably take constitution. We interpret constitution. We cannot be there with the constitution maker. Like, there's a quote in Lakshmikant also. K.M. Panthi says that preamble is the key to mind of constitution makers. If you understand preamble, you know the context of other parts. So same in RCs, you're trying to interpret it. You're not sitting with the author. You don't know the author. And you are not here to debate that this is wrong or this is right. You are here to interpret it. Like you do it in your scriptures, like you do it with the constitution, you interpret it. Right? You have to understand the thinking behind his passage. Right? So this is very important rule. So this requires, this is very important, intellectual humility. Right? Because if you feel you are Mr. Know-it-all, you will go wrong in RCs. Or how this can be right, this is wrong. Author says this is right, it is right. So it requires that intellectual humility in you. Right? You have to be in the shoes of the author and do it. You don't have to bring anything from outside. So first rule is of disciplined thinking is discipline against ego. Intellectual humility. Accept what the author is saying. Don't go beyond it. Your job is to understand him, interpret him, not to debate him or not to prove him wrong or right. No judgment involved. Right? Yes, are we clear here?
Yes.
Okay. Now next is discipline against your assumption. You don't have to assume things on your own. You have to probably assume things what author might be thinking, but not your own assumption. So here your mind should not fill gaps automatically. Right? Now this is a very important thing which we'll do with, because assumption questions also come in RCs. Right? But you have to remember assumption of the author, not your assumption. Right? So say for example, author in the passage is saying that this that author is trying, probably trying to tell his own story. Right? That probably he will be giving up smoking. Right? And he adds that he wants to live a fit life. Right? This is the line. Now, if the question says, what is the assumption he is making? Now, assumption is when he's saying, I'll give up smoking and I want to be fit. Assumption of the author is that if I keep on smoking, I will be unhealthy. I won't be fit. That is not explicitly given in the passage. But this is what he's assuming, which is very clear here. But you don't have to bring your own assumption that author is not smoking because it doesn't look cool or his parents will get angry. That is your assumption. Right? Author is clearly saying, I will give up smoking because I want to become fit. When he says, I want to become fit, assumption, what is the assumption? That smoking is injurious to health. Otherwise, he would have written something else. I will give up smoking. Author is saying, I will give up smoking because my parents don't like it. Then assumption becomes different. You don't have to start listing reasons why a person should give up smoking. That is not required. Whatever author is saying, you have to focus on that. Now here, author's assumption, not your assumptions. Your assumption, you will not fill gaps on your own. You will go into author's mind and think that if he is saying this line, what assumption he has made, and this how to think, what assumption he has made or he is making in the passage. That's another thing we'll discuss. That's another topic, right? We'll do rules for assumption questions separately. That how to be 100% correct in the questions when it is about assumption, because assumption is something which is not explicitly given in the passage. It is in a hidden form. You have to create a chain of things. But if he is saying this, right, this will be valid. Right? How to do that, we'll do that later on. But one thing here is clear, that your own assumptions should not come. Think from author's mind, not your mind. Author's assumption will be fine because that is one type of question, but not your assumption. So your mind should not fill gaps automatically, and you should not add a single idea that is not textually defensible. Through the passage, if you can't defend anything, please don't think or tick, because options will be like this only. Then no students will assume this particular thing. So if you cannot defend it through the passage, that is a wrong option. Don't fill the gaps. Don't bring in your own thinking that, okay, this might have been there. No. It should not be, I think this should be there. Author might be thinking this way. When he's saying, I gave you example of smoking, because it is in a hidden form. I have not said the entire thing. Author is saying, I'll give up smoking because I want to become fit. So the hidden meaning assumption is that smoking is bad for health. But it is defensible from the passage because the word fit has come. And he is giving up smoking. It means if he continues doing smoking, he will become unfit. It's a hidden thing, but from author's point of view. It is defensible from the passage. If it is not defensible from the passage, because passage doesn't talk anything about his parents getting angry or he not looking cool, the passage absolutely have no reference to this particular thing in hidden form or in explicit form. If you are correcting that option, it means it is your own thinking. So first rule of disciplined thinking is you have to have intellectual humility. Give up your ego. Don't be Mr. or Miss Know-it-all. Reserve it for your GS paper. Here, your author's world is your world. Second, don't make your personal assumptions. personal assumptions. Remember this. Because there will be your passages where author's assumption will be asked. But you have to stay away from your personal assumptions, right? Don't fill in the gaps in between. Now, next is discipline of structure, right? What is discipline of structure is that when you're reading the passage, you don't have to literally just read it. You have to track it. Track the flow. See if the sentence is in the form of cause and effect. This was my usual habit. The moment I read a line, I felt that it is saying that if this will happen, if this is there, this will happen. So I used to mark it with that this is the cause and this is the effect. There and then on the word. This makes my work easier when I go and see the questions. Now see, there is another way, there are two ways of doing RCs. You read the reading comprehension, then you solve the questions. Some people have an opposite habit. They read the questions first and then they read the comprehension so that they know which knowledge to target, which might work sometimes, but a better understanding personally I feel is when you first read the passage and then come to questions. That is a better approach, but opposite approach also works for certain passages, right? Anyhow, so you have to track the flow. You have to see in which direction the argument is going. How two lines or the lines of the passage, they are connected with each other. Is there any repetition of the fact? Sometimes author will again talk about the same thing in the last line, what he had talked at the starting also. So you have to be careful while reading. You have to see each and every word. But while you are reading, see the flow of the argument. In which direction he is going. Track that flow. See if there is a cause and effect he is talking about. Probably he is giving reasons in one line. Mark it with reason as R or whatever, your choice, whatever acronym you want to use. Probably in one line, he's talking about impact. So be alert while you are reading. You don't have to just literally read it. You have to understand the meaning also. Right? Say again, talking about religious scriptures. Lot of people in lot of religion, they read the scriptures, but they don't know the meaning. They'll just read it for the sake of it, and they don't know the meaning behind it. Right? So you don't have to do that in RCs. You're not just reading for the sake of it, you're reading to understand the author's point of view. You're reading something to track that in which direction he is going. In just 10 lines and 4 lines, what he is talking about. What is the basic, this is another question which will come in your RCs. What is the theme of the passage? Sometimes what is the core message the author wants to give? There will be a lot of facts here and there in the passage. But what is the core of it? If the author has said something, right? Say for example, in essay, one previous year question about essay is, if you have attended the class, we would have done this essay. Hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. Now this is a quote. But what is the theme here? Theme was socialization. It's a one full line, but the hidden theme, the core topic which the author is touching upon is socialization. So just don't read it blindly that you are just reading the words. Track his argument flow. Track in which direction he is going. Is he going in a direction where he's giving solutions? Probably he might be giving solutions to it. Right? So you have to track that whether he gave solutions. Sometimes in the passage he will never even talk about solution. Probably, and you have to sometimes, you have to identify the tone of the passage also. He's being optimistic about it, giving solution, or he's very pessimistic that nothing can be done. It's the end of the world. So while reading, lot of things side by side you should be doing. Every line is like a clue to a puzzle. Right? Like, there are this treasure hunts kind of thing is there, a riddle is given and you have to find the clue, what is it is. Passage is like this only. Every line is a clue. So don't just read it literally that I have read this line. See whether it is talking about cause, whether it is giving effect, whether it is talking about features of something, whether it is given just plain simple fact, whether the sentence is very extreme, right? Extreme sentence will be done not at all. Middle thing will be might be, or maybe, or can be. So if the option says that this is not possible at all and the passage is talking about maybe, might be, it means that option is wrong, clearly wrong. Sometimes with just words you will be able to judge that this is a wrong option, this is not possible. And even this works in GS also. Look at the intensity of the sentence. Where does the intensity lies? On which scale? Not possible at all or always present, and in between will be maybe, might be, can be. So see the intensity of the line. Mark those words, circle them. So while reading, you have a lot of things to do. Weak readers, they just read sentence by sentence. Strong readers track the argument flow. Right? Weak readers will just, you have to read word by word, but they're just literally reading it without understanding the meaning it is carrying, without tracking the flow, without tracking the intensity of the sentence. Is it extreme? Is it in the middle? Or is it at the other end of the scale? What is the, tone? Is it authoritative or it is confusing? Sometimes author himself will be confused that this might be the reason, or this might be the reason, or this might be the reason. Number all the reasons, 1, 2, 3. Right? So that when you read the questions, you're very clear that these are the 3 reasons. Sometimes he might just give 1 reason. So you track the argument flow while you're reading it. Because RC is not about content memory. People sometimes think that we have to quickly memorize it, whatever is given. No, it's not about memorization. It is about tracking the reasoning architecture. Right? Like you see architecture of a building. If you see a model architect makes, what do you see? The reasoning behind it. Why is your prayer room in this area? Probably direction, vastu, or whatever, or ease. Why the washroom is in this direction? Because ventilation will be much easier. Otherwise, the rooms will not smell good. Why is kitchen is in this direction? Probably because it is easily accessible, or probably the whole house would not fill up with smoke. So in reading passage, similarly, you have to see the reasoning architecture. Where is it going? In which direction? Why he's writing this? He's writing it with which perspective? What is his, with the line you can understand. If I say something, you will be able to understand the tone of it. If I say UPSC is an exam which is very, very difficult, right? Not all the people are capable of this exam. Now, this is a very pessimistic approach. If I say it's a difficult exam, but if you work hard enough, you can clear it. Now, this is very optimistic approach. Both the sentences, I told you it's a difficult exam. But the way I approached it, my tone is very different. So a sharp student who's good at RC will very quickly realize the tone. You will see the reasoning architecture, how the reasoning has been placed within the RCs. That is what disciplined thinking looks like, right? Then next is discipline in option selection, right? You've read everything, you've marked things. Now you have to have discipline in your option selection also, right? So now most of the student will choose what sounds most intelligent, right? Or what aligns with their opinion or what feels familiar. We've discussed this already. All the things are wrong. Something which is looking right. Something is looking right will work for your paper one. That this looks right, or this is the most appropriate thing, or this is good. In RC this doesn't work. Sometimes the most irrelevant, stupid or wrong thing will be right because author is saying it, right? So you don't take an option which looks very intelligent or which aligns with your opinion that I think this way, so this is the right option. And lot of time, even when I'm telling you this, lot of time in hurry or in view of attempting more questions, you will fall for these things. You will fall into this trap that this is looking good only, let's stick it. And that is where you go wrong. And again, reading comprehension is a low-hanging fruit. Everything is in front of your eyes. You just have to open your eyes a little bit. See the reasoning. Easiest thing is RC. They've already given the thing. It's like an open book test. They've already given you the facts. They're in front of you. They're not even saying that, okay, read comprehension passage, then, close it and write down same things in another piece. No, they're not asking that. It's in front of your eyes. You have to open your eyes in a manner where you understand it, right? So disciplined thinking here will be not what sounds familiar, not what sounds intelligent. Your option will be, can I prove this from the passage? If the answer is yes, then your option is correct. If your option is no, then it is not. Proof from the passage, not from your thinking, not from your knowledge. From the passage, will I be able to give will I be able to convince someone that, okay, this is the right thing? So, if not, if your answer, if you cannot prove it from your passage, again taking that line, smoking line, you cannot prove from the passage that he is giving up smoking because his parents told so. You cannot prove it. But when he says, I want to become fit, then you can do an inference or come to a conclusion that if he doesn't give it up, he will be unfit. You can prove it from the passage. Sometimes words will be twisted, but still you have to simplify and find a proof in it. Because if you're not able to find that proof, then things go wrong. Then you will start just randomly ticking the options, which will not even make sense. It has to make sense with the passage. So you have to be very disciplined when you are choosing your options also. You have to be very careful what you are choosing and what you are eliminating. Like I told you, one best thing when you're doing RC is mark the intensity of the sentence. On scale to 1 to 10, what is the intensity? on scale of not possible at all and is possible. Where does it lie? In which level does it lie? Which type of sentence this is? Is it an emotional sentence? Sometimes author might be just conveying his emotions, that this is a sad situation. Sometimes he will be telling a fact. Say for example, he is talking about sexual assault against women. One line might be that this is a sad situation, or there might be a line where he will give certain data, that this survey talks about this percentage of women are inflicted with violence. Now both the lines you have to identify. One was a statement of emotion, one is statement of fact. And similarly, when you go on to the questions, then you will be able to attempt it in a better manner. Right? So usually people think RC doesn't needs anything, you just read it and attempt it. No. If you read and attempt it, today only, without doing anything, without attending the class, you'll go wrong. One or two might be wrong. I'm not saying that it's not doable. There may be right, but we are not looking for one or two. We are looking for 98 to 100% of accuracy. Whatever we are doing, it should not go wrong in RCs. And this strategy should be applied in GS also. In GS, pick up certain subjects where you feel at this point of time, when there is less time left for your prelims, pick up certain subjects that these are my strong areas. Make them more strong. That at least if I'm good at polity, if they're asking 12 questions, 15 questions out of polity, or 8 questions, all of them should be correct. At least I should be able to, if there are 10 questions, say for example, I should be able to attempt 8 or 9. Rest I can leave, but out of those 8, everything should be right. Or I am good with science and technology, or I am probably good with your IR part. So I will aim for 100, close to 100% accuracy in those questions. So it's not just about that 100 questions are being asked in GS. It is about areas, you identify areas where you are good, where you will not go wrong, where you're very confident. Because otherwise, if you randomly attempt the paper or randomly, do it, whatever is coming in front of you, you will sometimes miss areas where you are good at. It also gives you confidence also. GS paper comes in front of you, paper 1. Your polity is good, quickly go through the paper. You will, whenever you go through the paper, the moment you see a polity question, so there is an order. Next 10 questions will be polity only. If you identify a history question, next 10 question or last 2 questions will be history only. So when you attempt those questions, your confidence also builds. Right? So don't be like this, like first question is environment, you start solving in the environment. Because environment questions generally are difficult, very random. They'll ask anything. They'll pick up any animal and ask about its features. So not always doable. Polity is doable. Economy is doable. Science and technology is doable. So do these things first. Create a confidence. And then you move on to the other parts. Right? So CSAT paper also, first, if you're good with maths, do the maths very quickly. Right? And when I'm saying you're good at maths, not just at solving it, but also in a timely manner. If you're taking 1 hour only in maths, then obviously you're not good then. Your CSAT requires accuracy plus time. Time is very important. GS may anyhow, GS mostly students, they will solve the paper at least round 1 in 40 minutes, 50 minutes. And you are always left with last 15 to 20 minutes where you have done the paper and you're just revising and checking if you can attempt more. So time is not a problem in prelim paper 1. Time is an issue in paper 2. Here you have to identify the areas where you're good at and do it. And this should be your strategy till your prelim comes in May now. Stop cribbing, crying over, I don't know this thing, I've not covered newspaper, I've not covered. Nothing can be done now. If you want to do, then start with the newspaper, or newspaper obviously 1 year you cannot do. Start with pick up some magazine. But don't crib about it that my 1 year news is not covered. Okay, it should have been covered, not covered, it's okay. Start with somewhere. Start with your magazines. At least cover 6 months magazine. Minimum, bare minimum I'm saying. Anyhow, 1.5 year current affair is important. But start from somewhere. Current affair is not doable. Okay, fine. No problem. Be strong in your static part. Right? And anyhow, when you see, I'm not saying you leave current affairs. Direct current affair questions, they are less. Always questions will be that something in current affair came and then they'll ask a static question about it. But again, you never know, tomorrow they might ask more current affair questions. Right? There have been so many years where there was not even single question of current affairs. But again, it's a possibility, not a confirmed thing. Current affair is important. Current affair, anyhow, you cannot clear your mains if your current affair knowledge is zero. Right? But for prelim part, you have to do it. In case you haven't done it, don't waste your time there. That 10 days you are reading all the schemes, or 15 days you're just reading the schemes. You'll read it, but you'll forget about it. Then what is the need to do that in first place? Always better to do it in a graded manner, in a divided manner. That today, if I start, I will do all the schemes related to probably Ministry of Health. For next 5 days, just 1 hour for these schemes. Once this is done, then I move to another ministry. I'll do it just 1 hour daily for next 5 days. But if you expect in 10 days, because in that manner, your recollection power will be much better because you have done in a divided part. You have revised it repeatedly. Things you cannot revise at least 3 times, please leave it at this point. Because you'll waste your time, but you'll forget about it. Right? Now, today is 2nd March. Not enough time is there now. Now you should be focusing on repeated revisions and solving as many as question possible daily. Only reading will never be enough. You read Lakshmikant, it is very easy. You will feel you have done polity. Go and attempt a full-length paper. When you attempt a full-length paper, then you realize that you forgot this, or you didn't had a proper understanding of this. So don't pick up new things now. Whatever is done is done. If you have that confidence that okay, next 10 days also I can do a new thing, then you can do. Again, these are all instructions. The rest, I don't know what is your level of preparation, what is your strategy, or why you're giving this attempt. Right? But anyhow, you should not just be worried about your weakness when the time is not there. Now focus on your strengths. Make them strong. 3x, 4x, 5x. That you have such confidence that if I go wrong here, if I attempt these questions here, this is my guaranteed score in this particular subject. Right? Okay. Now, discipline of speed control. Students, they will rush. And on the other side, there will be students who will overanalyze. Especially in your GS paper. People go wrong because they overanalyze the options. You have to be in the middle path. You don't have to rush also that you read one word and then quickly tick it. And you don't have to spend 10 minutes just thinking about that, okay, this or that, because more you will think, more you will get confused, right? Don't overanalyze it. Say, for example, when you sometimes click your picture, right? More you will zoom it, more you will spend 10 minutes, you'll get some defects. My nose is not looking like this, my eyes is going in this direction, one eye is small, one eye is big. But if you zoom it out and just see it, okay, it's a good picture. But if you keep on looking, something will come, because it's human. It's a normal human face. It has to have certain flaws, right? So if you do that with your options also, over analyzing this and that and this, you have to analyze it. No two way about it. But if you over analyze, right, that's not some rocket science or quantum mechanics. Simple options are there. But once you get into the mode of over analysis, everything will appear wrong, right? And you will be too scared to tick even the right option. So even in RCs, don't rush, right? But also don't overanalyze, right? So slow while understanding the structure, right? When you're reading it and you're understanding the flow of argument, you have to be slow at that point, right? Fast while eliminating weak options. Very quick. Elimination makes your work very simple. Sometimes by eliminating only you will understand that, okay, this is the right option. So slow while understanding, but fast while eliminating options. Don't just get immersed in the options. Be very quick. And you will be quick in eliminating options if you have understood that passage slowly, right? So speed without clarity is chaos, right? If you have speed without any clarity, you're just reading pages. It's chaos. You've just read it for the sake of it, right? So clarity without speed is impractical. Other thing is also right. You're spending 15 minutes because I want to have clarity on this, right? Without speed, that is also impractical. In this speed, you will just attempt 2 or 3 questions only. You don't have enough time. So you have to have a speed which is appropriate. While reading, you have to have a speed which is slow, where you understand where the author is going, in which direction he is going, what he is trying to explain here. But when you are looking at options, be quick, and you will be quick because you understood it nicely. You have clarity about it, right? So these things make up your disciplined thinking. Very important things. Otherwise, there is no syllabus for RCs, right? There is no special book you have to read. There is just disciplined thinking. And disciplined thinking will require a lot of practice, right? At this point of time, you have to remember that even if you get good marks in paper 1, if you are not clearing paper 2, right, it's all waste. There are a lot of students who will come that my cutoff was not cleared. Whatever may be the reason, the exam is very brutal. Even if you get 200 out of 200 in GS also, it doesn't matter if you're not able to get 600. There's no mercy at all in competitive exams. So even if in previous attempts you had a good GS score, but were left behind because of CSAT, it's something you have to think about it. That paper has certain rules. You can't be just happy about that my GS was good, because next year again you will not clear CSAT. GS marks are good, that's fine, good enough. But CSAT, you have to clear it, 66 marks. And I don't know why, because it's simple. 66 marks are not a lot. You have to be very disciplined here. Don't over attempt. That is one basic instruction in CSAT. Bare minimum questions where you feel your accuracy is high. So when you check your CSAT paper, the key after giving exam, 2 or 3 questions should go wrong. That's it. And that is possible, very, very much possible. Half of your marks can come from your RCs, and rest marks can come from reasoning and maths question. Not all of them are difficult. Lot of easy questions are also there. Lot of questions in maths, in fact, you can solve from the options also. Just put that particular option number which is given. You can do a reverse calculation, right? And that will be easy. So 66 is not a big score. They've kept it very small. But yes, over the years, UPSC has made maths very difficult. Even people with engineering background, IIT background, they've made it even difficult. SSC was seen as SSC exam that it had difficult maths. UPSC has made even difficult, and I agree on that fact. They have made it difficult. It should have been just a qualifying exam. Qualifying exam means mild to moderate level of questions should be there. When you're judging on GS, why do you want to make this difficult? Right? So probably they just want to make their work more easier and eliminate competition quickly. CSAT marks are not there, anyhow you are eliminated. But anyhow, we have to work around whatever is given to us. We don't have any choice. So focus on the RC part. RC is still, RC I would not, there's nothing like difficult RC. No difficult RC. It's about your thinking process. If your thinking process is in the right direction, you will be able to solve the RCs. Now, our next few classes will be more like, practice only, because there's nothing else I can tell you about RCs. So we will be picking up the keywords. Like today, we'll start with assumptions. Lot of questions around assumption comes. So first, I'll give you a short discussion about how to solve, how to think about assumption questions. Then rest of the class will be practice only, because through practice, I'll be sharing the passage on the board, right? You read the passage, right? And then you first try to solve it on your own. And then next question, once you have solved it, then we will discuss about it. How to read it, how to identify, so that you have a better understanding that when I attempt, because if on the board I keep on solving RCs, it will appear very easy. So first you solve it in the class itself, so that once I give you the rules of assumption type of RCs, you're clear with the rule. And now you test yourself, are you applying it in the right direction? Sometimes you will need certain extra points apart from the points which we have done in assumption. So everything we will discuss in class. So we will go question wise. There are around 7 to 8 type of different recurrent questions which have been asked in RCs, like assumption questions, inference, tone of the passage, theme of the passage, most logical and correct explanation or reason behind it, conclusion of the passage. So like this, a lot of keywords. So instead of going from year to year, we will focus on the keywords. So next time in your paper, when you read that key term, you know the rules and you're confident enough that, okay, if I apply this, my option will be correct only, right? Okay. So the first type of questions which gets asked is assumptions. Now here, assumption type of question, again I am repeating, author's assumption, not your own personal assumption. So here you have to basically fill the gaps, that when author wrote this line, he was assuming this thing. Now this assumption should be provable, it should make sense, right? Now how to judge that, we'll do. Just one second. Now, when we talk about the concept of assumption, in simple words, assumption means if the video is getting stuck, I think this particular lecture they'll put on YouTube. Rest, I think you should check your Wi-Fi or something. Anyhow, assumption is an unstated belief which is not explicitly given in the passage. Right? Now, this doesn't mean, you might ask that, ma'am, you said that you don't have to go outside the passage. Right? But it is not going outside the passage. Right? For example, sometimes in a conversation you say a lot of things. Right? And a lot of things are like taken for granted that obviously you'll understand these things. Right? Or sometimes there are hidden meanings that the person will understand this. You don't have to write each and every word what you mean. So when you're talking about assumption, it's an unstated belief in the passage which must be true. Right? This word is very important. Which must be true for the argument to make sense. So whatever argument the author has given in the passage, say for example, this is the argument. Right? Now, assumption will be before it. This is a very important difference between inference question and assumption question. Assumption comes before the argument, inference is after it. Right? We'll do inference also, don't worry. So, if this is true, right? This should make sense. Right? The assumption which we are making, right? Like I gave you example that giving up smoking to become fit. This is the argument. Assumption will be smoking is injurious to health. Now this to make sense, because the author has explicitly told, I'm giving up smoking, right, to become fit. He's explicitly told you. Now, if this is wrong, smoking is not injurious to health, this argument will not make any sense. Then why are you giving up smoking to become fit? You could do anything other thing to become fit. But author is specifically saying that I am doing this to become fit. And now because of this, there is an assumption, there is an understated belief that it is injurious to health. And when you give up, you become fit. So assumption is something which, the flow of the statement will be this. This is hidden. Author has assumed it. If I am author, I have assumed, let's just forget the fact that scientists have told, or on a cigarette packing it's already given smoking is injurious to health. I am the author. I have assumed this, right? This is my assumption. Let's just move beyond fact, science, whatever. I make an assumption that smoking is bad for health, right? Now this is in my mind. Now I talk to my friend and I tell her that I am giving smoking to become fit. So that assumption is not stated, but it has to be true so that this makes sense. Otherwise, this doesn't make sense. Why would you give up smoking when it is not injurious to health? So you have to think in this manner when assumption question comes. right? You have to look out for the argument, and you have to look out the assumption given in the options. Put it before it. If it is making sense, right? It makes sense. If this is true, if the options in any of the four options, if any one option is true, this has to make sense. This is like a hidden meaning behind it. I have already assumed it in my mind, right? So these things make your assumption question easy. This is just a simple. There are other rules also where we will see how to be dead sure that your assumption questions are correct. So assumption is something the author takes for granting without explicitly saying it. So instead of adding two lines in the passage, smoking is injurious to health, full stop. Hence, I will be giving up smoking from tomorrow because I want to get fit. So instead of two lines, he just gave one line because he thought that this is obvious now. When I'm giving up smoking to get fit, it obviously means smoking is bad for health, right? Or if the author says, I will join gym from tomorrow because I want to get fit. What is the assumption? That if you go to the gym, you get fit. The statement has to be true. Right? Now, think about a passage which looks very absurd. Author says, I'll start consuming alcohol tomorrow because I want to be fit. Now, what is the assumption of author? Alcohol is good for health. Now, this will appear to you that this is so idiotic. It's proven alcohol is not good for health. But again, give up your thinking, give up your notions, give up your knowledge, give up science. Treat author's world as your only reality, only truth. So that is his assumption, right? So it's understated or taken for granted without even explicitly saying it. It's hidden. And now this assumption, again I am pointing out, it's author's assumption, which you have to identify. It is not asking for your assumption. What author might have thought or assumed or did not state. Because if this argument has to make sense, right, this has to be true. The options, in the four options, one thing has to be true so that it makes sense, right? So think assumption as an invisible pillar. If that pillar falls, argument also falls, right? If smoking is not injurious to health, the line that I will give up smoking to become fit, that falls. That argument becomes redundant. It's like a pillar which supports it. It's an invisible pillar holding the argument up, which is taken for granted, not explicitly described in the passage. Because if that pillar collapses, the argument collapses. Now, this is a very important thing here. If the question is talking about assumptions, right? Sometimes assumption questions are too easy, right? We'll start from tomorrow, we'll start with the PYQ from 2013 only. It's very easy. But some assumption questions will be difficult, whereas I'll have to pause for a moment, look out for each option. That if this assumption was true, right, then this will make sense, right? If it doesn't make sense, if the argument collapses, it means this is not the right options. You eliminate it, right? And most of the time, you might not even have to go through all the four options to see the assumption, right? You'll see the most appropriate one. This much brain obviously you will have out of after reading the passage. You won't have to go through all 4 options, right? Some by just analyzing you'll realize this is not even mentioned in the passage. We'll see tomorrow, 2013 question, one assumption is not even mentioned in the passage, right? The author has not even discussed about it, that aspect. So that is obviously wrong only, right? So that your argument, your assumption is like a pillar, right? If, say for example, this is the building, right? This is the argument being given. And if the pillar of assumption is not true, this argument or this building will collapse. You have to think in this manner, right? So RCs are not random in nature, that you read it, read the question and then you tick it. A thinking is required in the backstage. Now, if your thinking process is in this manner, your accuracy rate, I guarantee you, will be very high. In between, obviously, there will be certain difficult questions, and over the years, in fact, UPSC's key, sometimes 2-3 questions, they don't even make sense, but we can't do enough, anything about it. I agree from my side, there are a lot of questions in the last 10 years, especially in the last 2-3 years, where RC answers have not made sense. But again, we have to go it because we are preparing for the exam, right? Key will come at the end of 1 year, so we cannot even fight for it. So you have to remember that whatever thought process UPSC is following, UPSC is following this thought process. You have to follow that, right? So, assumption, you have to remember, before we wrap up the class, assumption comes before the argument. It is the hidden belief, and it is absolutely required for the argument to be making sense, right? It's like a prefix. If it is true, then only argument will make sense, otherwise it is not the right? Now, assumption, what assumption is not, that this is also very important. When you do features of something, always try to understand what it is not, so that you don't confuse yourself. So assumption is not conclusion, right? It is not a summary of something, because certain passages will ask you what is the summary, right, at the end, or what is the conclusion. It is not a prediction. Assumption is not equal to you predicting something. It is very closely related to the validity of the argument. It's not a futuristic thing that I have predicted something, that smoking in future will become injurious to health. No, it's a fact. Smoking is injurious to health. That is why author is giving up smoking to become fit. So it's not a future statement. It's not a prediction, and it's not an implication. All these things are different from each other. They're not same, right? I'll share the this presentation. Don't worry, it will be on the channel, right? So you have to remember not only what your assumption is, but you also have to remember what it is not. It makes your work easier, right? So this is not assumption. This is not what assumptions stand for. It is the hidden bridge between premise and conclusion. In between, right? And it has to be correct in order for the argument to become true. Just before wrapping up the class, just another example. Now, one line is, Rohit should buy a car because he travels 30 kilometers daily. Right? Now, this is the line. Now, what are the assumptions here? First assumption is that obviously public transport is inconvenient. Right? Why would anyone say that he should buy a car? Right? When, obviously the passage would have talked about public transport or something. Why would they say he should be buying a car? Now, when he is traveling 30 kilometers, he will not be going by foot. He might have been taking a public transport. That is a true assumption, right? Now, second assumption is buying a car will reduce his difficulty. And that is why he should buy the car. So the previous to the argument, if these two are correct, then only that will make sense. If public transport is convenient, why should he buy the car? Or if buying a car will not reduce his difficulty, why should he be buying the car? So assumption is like a prefix. When it becomes correct, when it is true, the argument will make sense. Otherwise, it will be nonsensical. It will not make any sense. It will collapse. Assumption is that pillar which holds the argument, which makes it true, right? Now, tomorrow we'll do certain rules about assumption, right? There is a negation rule is there regarding assumption, so that your accuracy, because right now what we have understood is just the meaning of assumption, right? What does it stand for? Now we will apply one rule which will make it absolutely easy for you, and it will ensure you that at least assumption questions are not wrong, right? So we'll continue from tomorrow. Thank you.